I suggest we start to set up our topic. Let's kick off the discussion, and we have time until 1 o'clock to thematize, to develop around our topics. Let me just share a couple of thoughts from our perspective as micro retailer in regard to retail tech and food tech. And I'm very glad to collect the comments and the impressions also that come from your side, Sylvia and Marcus, as well as with the chat from the other participants that can join in through the chat. Now, for us, Micro, there has been quite a shift of the market needs that have been driven by Corona. And we have experienced that there will be some changes in the way consumers work that are going to stay also beyond the Corona critical times. And I'm interested to hear about your impressions as well. We see them more as opportunities than showstoppers. And still, it's important to understand, to evaluate how they can be catered as opportunities as such. So one element that we have seen is that with the lockdown of the companies and the offices, our consumers, we all as Swiss people, have gone back into the kitchen and have started to consider how do we cook our meals. It's then not we have not eaten in the offices for quite some weeks, and we have gone back to the cooking devices. This has probably given us consumers again interest in cooking and on how we prepare, what we put on the table, but also, of course, as busy people, we are looking for convenient solutions for that. So we are considering how could we develop new solutions in terms of products and possibly also digital solutions to cater for this need, having the people consuming at home but wanted to do it in a convenient way. On the other side, we have seen that there has been a strong shift toward the digital commerce. And there we have seen that the usual solutions that we have got into quite, I would say, reach their limits. And it's necessary to develop more creative solutions. So maybe including local delivery solutions with purely digital last mile solutions. So definitely these two areas are quite interesting for us. As I said, they reinvent the consumption at home and maintain convenience in it. And on the other side, how to be efficient and satisfy the needs when it comes to quick delivery outside the usual mortar and brick systems. So those are areas that Migros are for which Migros is going to further look for innovation. And are those areas, do they resonate with you as a retailer on the other side? And if there are other areas, I'm quite interested to hear about your shifts, the shifts for your company within Corona. So maybe Sylvia, if you maybe would like to give an input on Metro, which is quite active on the Horeca business, and so therefore surely quite a lot of changes for your business.
Yeah, and especially what we have seen is that digital solutions in this area obviously have an increased importance to not only the HoReCa sector, but also to the metro and metro countries. So what we have seen is actually that the attention for a program like the MXL program has increased because the need for digital solutions was there based on immediate pain points or imminent needs. So the perception of the need of such a program has completely shifted. towards complete must-have, and we're now really seen as a support, not because sometimes when you're in retail, then retail tech solutions, especially innovative or disruptive solutions, but even normal ones are very difficult to implement, and it takes a long time. So it's especially when it comes to startups, it's quite difficult to convince the traditional and operational business to focus their efforts on that. And I've seen a lot of shifts. So a lot of solutions, especially in the area, as you said, in the area of delivery, in the area.
I have a little intrusion in the room. Now the intrusion is gone.
I think we all got used to that.
Yes. So he is early, I would say, passionate innovator. So
Yeah.
wanted to hear. Yeah, Silvia. Sorry for the interruption.
No worries, but yeah, what we have definitely seen is especially a shift or an importance for delivery solutions, collect solutions, for in terms of retail tech, and as well everything which is around payment and insurance. Mm-hmm. So all of these, especially for HoReCa customers, for our customers, like how to finance them throughout the period of COVID, even like especially looking into if there is a second lockdown or like a light version of the lockdown, we will run into financial issues. So this is where we see also a lot of potential on top of the obviously normal inventory management, ordering stuff.
Yeah. And Markus, how about your perspective?
Also for us, it's a quite challenging time right now. So we have on the one hand, we're talking about sustainability, which is a big thing in Austria, and it's growing bigger time by time. And the other thing is the COVID crisis, which made us see that the online store and the techniques that we are using right now are getting very fastly to their limits. So when we had that lockdown in March and in April, we learned that all the capacities that we do have are not enough, and the way we are providing the goods to the consumers are not fast enough. Like the people need that when they are in lockdown and not able to leave their houses due to a positive corona test or stuff like that. And we are getting back to that phase right now. Like in Austria, we are slowly making, let's say, light lockdowns in some areas, and reading the numbers, it looks like that we have some bigger areas where that's going to happen. So the technique and the way to deliver the goods to the people in a sustainable way, and also being able to provide regional goods is the big challenge for us for the next year, and to synchronize that with all the concepts that we have right now.
Yeah, definitely this resonates also with us. We experience as a retailer the limits of the capacities for delivery, and we saw also the rise of hybrid models for which the decentralized shop were able to collect requests for the consumers and deliver them, bypassing the purely digital order system through the online shops. What we also saw that the same happened for the HoReCa sector. So I'm actually curious to see, Silvia, if this has felt also from your side, that the restaurants started to develop their own solutions to reach out to consumers who were interested in delivery solutions. Restaurants, even high-end restaurants that were not used to home delivery, actually entered into the business of delivering. So therefore, solutions to enable restaurants to do that was quite on the rise in Switzerland.
So what we have seen from our sector is that Obviously, there was a demand for solutions that also we developed within Hospitality Digital. So we do have our own developed solution, which is after lockdown, it was a lot like the reservation tool, where we saw a push, but also like all the voucher or like all the creative solutions around external tech that increased attention. We also have seen that the restaurants themselves got very creative, but I think that this is something where they did have a half working solution that is also coming to their limits. But yeah, we definitely have seen that there was that restaurants definitely started to figure out how they could reach and approach their customers, having like a normal, actually only traditional transactional business usually, and how that has moved. And then, I mean, for us, it's definitely an opportunity to our digital own developed solutions with startup solutions for them.
Yeah. So would you say that
to professionalize and to the handmade half tech solutions? Yeah.
Would you say that could be a filter for the ones who are able to make it after the stressful time, whether they're able to convert into more agile, more diversified way to reach consumers? And I would say many of the restaurants are still single owned. Do you see that there is really a high barrier to survival for the future, or do you have do you think many could be able to pivot in this direction?
I think that these restaurants are more likely to survive by themselves, but this is where we come into play to exactly help those restaurants who don't come up with such solutions, right? So who don't, or especially older owners still. So the hope is that it's not only the ones that are creative around the solution, but also the ones that we can support, even though they didn't find ways by themselves. That's where we come into play. So we are the champion for independent businesses and like helping really independent businesses to stay alive and to survive.
Yeah, I can feel that you can offer a hand for those who are not able to do it on their own force. One point I would also to comment is what Markus mentioned before. I think his connection has again abandoned him, but hopefully will be able to join again. Markus mentioned the area of sustainability, and I stress the fact that also in our experience we have seen an intensifying of the discussion about the sustainability of products and how easily they can reach the consumer. How long are the supply chains to the consumer of the products? How healthy are they for us consumers, and how healthy are they for the environment? And this has been activated by the fact that there were several outbreaks. I mean, the virus itself comes from an environment where food safety was not at a high standard, and also we've seen that several outbreaks had happened in the areas where industrial processing of meat was happening. So this fact had fueled the discussion, and we've seen the polarizing around particularly the topic of switching the diet toward a more sustainable diet based on plant proteins. And we have seen clearly the growth of this desire of products from the consumers. And as Migros, of course, we are doing as much as possible to bring new and satisfying products to the market. While at the same time, in the lockdown, we have also seen the increase of consumption of fresh animal products because of storage, I would say, food security attitude. So this is more the thermometer of the situation from the retailer perspective. And Silvia, I'm curious to see if this has been something felt also from your perspective, if there is need for innovation in this shift of diet also felt from the HoReCa perspective.
So definitely, I mean, we do have actually an own entity and an own program around food tech or like innovation, which is Annex Food. Share what's the new trend, plant-based meat, vitro. So all of these things that were looked at. But this is something that we're focusing already also pre-COVID, right? So the crisis isn't really a factor of mindset change in these areas. I do think that the awareness is already there, far ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, we think also it has been accelerating the adoption, the attitude for adoption. We have a few minutes. I'm welcoming also questions from the audience. So if you have questions, you can write them on the chat. We are very happy to take them. So feel free to drop your question, your curiosity, and we'll take them on the go. And while we maybe wait for to have the questions, Sylvia, I'm wondering now for the next few years. Yeah, very good. Samuel has dropped a question. What would you say are the top 3 priorities when you compare startups to work with? Sylvia, do you want to shoot?
So the top 3 priorities in terms of, so is it in terms of areas, like focus areas that where we work with startups, priority in terms of solutions that we look at, or priorities in terms of what we look into in a startup? That isn't really, but maybe I start from how I firstly saw the question. It's the top 3 priorities for us at the moment based on the pain point analysis. What you like in. Okay, so priority number 1 is that the startup fulfills a concrete pain point. That's why we have rearranged our entire process. So we went back to the business, asked to prioritize for a specific period of time 5 major pain points, and like for this year it was sustainability actually, but not in terms of food, because we're looking into tech. It's sustainability in terms of, for example, energy saving, or sustainability in terms of sustainable packaging. But then it's also, as I said already, delivery, click and collect, everything that supports during COVID. So as long as you fulfill this specific pain point and fulfill an eminent need, especially during COVID, this is priority number 1. Priority number 2, obviously, is the team, and also the already how big is your team, like how advanced are you, and are you post-product market fit? So for us, it's very important to see that there is a structure in place, that you are able and capable of doing a pilot with a big corporate like that. So that means, do you have customers before, and do you have a team that supports actually the people? So these are basically the 2 major priorities.
Yeah, for us as Migros, well, it is similar to what Sylvia said. First of all, the startups should have solutions in the areas that we called our big bets, the Migros big bets, for which we are actively scouting for the solutions. One of them is, as I mentioned, plant-based proteins, and there we're looking for solutions that are of plant-based proteins that are sustainable, more sustainable, and more effective than the current blockbusters. And that means, first of all, fit with our big bets. And secondly, already a solution that can be implemented to do tests. So as Sylvia said, the possibility to do piloting in the market. And the third priority is the startup also open to work in a private label environment, which is the typical Migros environment. So to give an example, there are excellent and super cool startups that have excellent built brands for plant-based food, just following this big bet. But they are focusing exclusively on building up their brand, they would become immediately a second priority for us, even though they're excellent. But as said, our main environment is a private label environment, so it's a fit to Migros setup. A question from Leonardo Markovitz. Hi, is it possible to do product testing at retailer location these days? Well, Silvia, I start, then maybe you have the follow on the question. Yes, it is possible. So in my introduction, I showed the example of a product which is now out in the shelves based on a collaboration with a startup. It's a dairy alternative. The same is for products that come out of collaborations in vertical farming. So it's possible to do testing. And we will, even though there are challenges because of considering the priorities and the priorities on the type of food that is necessary for Corona, we will continue to do testing in the retailers.
Yeah, I mean, same here. Definitely, if it comes especially to solutions that are during COVID helping HoReCa or Metro itself coming through the crisis, then obviously this is where we are most likely about to test. Then also product testing is in some countries where COVID maybe isn't such a big topic, more likely than in others. So that we have seen in the during the first period, there were countries where the regulations weren't as strict because of more positive situation, let's say, than in others. So yeah, definitely product testing is still a topic, but again, the more eminent need and the pain point that we're looking after and that support COVID situations, the more likely you are to test.
And there is another question from Yuval, Vice Class, and probably this is the last one we take. We will give a short answer to you, Yuval. It's around the shift toward more use of plastic that has happened with the COVID backlash, while before there was a trend in retail and HoReCa to go for environmental friendly solutions like reusable cups and reduced packaging products. The question is, how do you see this trend affecting the long-term habits? Silvia, about your input here.
So it's funny that also this question comes up now, because we have made it as a priority, obviously, for, as I mentioned already before, for this program to go for sustainable packaging, for reusable packaging, because I think that it's now, even though that there was a backlash, but that was only because probably the imminent need to have a solution immediately to this COVID crisis. Now I think everyone will be again much more aware and will have a little bit more time to create awareness around sustainability again. But I actually see also Metro as, or also Migros, for example, or other retailers in the duty to push this topic further forward. Actually providing solutions that are sustainable, providing sustainable packaging in their stores in order to make sure that this topic is also in future of importance.
Yeah, so for Silvia, for Migros, the reduction of the environmental impact through packaging will remain high in our priority. Currently, we are working with several cantons in Switzerland to even set up a system for recycling of plastic. These will, on one side, I would say, cater on the fact that people have been using more plastic and have plastic at home. So we want to act at that end. And also we are working on the other side, actually with startups, looking at startup solutions to find out materials that are that have a very good life cycle analysis and can be composted, for instance, or does not need to go to incineration or landfill. Landfill is anyway not possible, not done in Switzerland, but incineration is still widely used. So we think that plastic is a much valuable resource that should not go into incineration if not necessary. So there is work in progress there, and it will remain very high on the agenda. So we have seen that we also received interest to share the contacts. So I will have my email on the chat after our session, and Silvia, if you like, feel free to do so the same. And yeah, and otherwise we will continue to have our discussion offline with all of you who are interested to follow on. Thank you very much for participating to the session. Thank you very much, Silvia. Thank you very much, Marcus. I hope you could hear us in the background. And yes, I'm looking forward to continue the contacts during the event. Have a very good event further.
Thank you, Eliana, as well for the nice questions and the very vivid discussion.
Goodbye, everyone.